I'm Sasha. You are listening to Mary Farfisa out Space Radio Theater.
My grandpa used to sing this with me. Oh, the cannibal king with the brass nose ring fell in love with the dusk he made, and every night by the pale moonlight across the bay he came, and he hugged and he kissed his pretty little miss by the shade of the bamboo tree. Every night by the pale moonlight sounded like this to me: barum, 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 da dee da day, barum, barum. Barum da dee da day. Except he did barum. He did that. But I can't do that. I guess I can, yeah.
This song is called On the Bridge de Morlaix, Sur le Pont de Morlaix. It's a sea shanty from Finistère in Brittany. Sea shanties are songs sung by sailors with a rhythm with a particular rhythm adapted to the tasks that they need to do. My mother, whose name was Helen, loved this song because of the reference to La Belle Hélène, or Beautiful Helen. Le Pont de Morlaix. C'est en passant sur le pont de Morlaix, all away, old fellow away, la belle Hélène j'ai rencontré. All away, old fellow away. Bien humblement je l'ai salué. All away, old fellow away. D'un beau sourire m'a remercié. All away, old fellow away. Bien sûr que c'était par charité. All away, old fellow away. Car elle est une dame de qualité. All away, old fellow away. C'est la fille d'un capitaine nantais. All away, old fellow away. Un matelot, elle ne sera jamais. All away, old fellow away. Matelot, mon cœur est embrumé. All away, old fellow away. Buvons quand même à sa santé. All away, old fellow away. Encore un coup pour étarquer. All away, old fellow away. Hisse le grand phoque, tout est payé. All away, old fellow away.
I am the sun. I'm a burning ball of fire. I'm very big indeed. Life on earth depends on me. I am the sun. I am Mercury. I'm the closest planet to the sun. I'm a ball of iron. I have no moon. I am Mercury. I am Venus. I'm the same size as the earth. but I spin the other way, and much more slowly. I have no water, I am Venus. I am the earth, the place where we all live. There is land and lots of sea, so I look blue. I have a moon, I am the earth. I am Mars, I'm a rocky red planet. My mountains are the highest in our solar system. I have 2 moons, I am Mars. I am Jupiter, I'm a gas giant. I'm the biggest, and I spin the fastest. I have the biggest moon, I am Jupiter. I am Saturn, I'm a gas giant. My rings are made of ice. Titan is my biggest moon, I am Saturn. I am Uranus, I'm an icy gas giant. I'm the coldest planet in our solar system, and I have rings made of dust. I am Uranus. I am Neptune, I'm an icy gas giant. I'm the farthest planet from the sun. I have many storms, I am Neptune. We are the solar system. We are the solar system.
Hi, kids! Mary Farfisa here. Would you like to hear a story?
Remember Bunya. Paddy the Possum was always worried about getting enough food. Even now, as his rainforest home was finally starting to cool down and delicious berries and soft fruits were bursting brightly through the foliage, Paddy still worried there wouldn't be enough food for him. Each night, as the sun was setting in the sky, Paddy would wake up with a start and, barely pausing to yawn, he would then hurry out of his tree hollow home, nervously scurrying down the old stump before frantically scuttling off across the forest floor, sniffing for something to eat. Keeping a close watch out for cheeky spotted quolls or prowling foxes, all night long Paddy madly dashed from tree to plant to shrub, stopping just for a second to quickly gulp down a mouth-watering moth or a fungi feast or any other tasty treat he found, before dashing back out on the hunt. And just like all the other possums, Paddy ate his food in such a hurry that he hardly even tasted it, let alone said thanks to the tree, plant, or vine that had grown it. And although the trees would whisper on the breeze, "Slow down, Paddy, slow down. Slow down, Paddy, slow down," Paddy the Possum was too busy listening to his worries to hear the trees. Maybe someone else was getting more food than him, maybe there was better food over there. And with those worries loud in his ears, he raced off in a mad panic to find his next feed. So, from the moment he woke until the moment he slept, Paddy the Possum spent all his time in a jittery worry. In fact, the only time he forgot to worry was at the end of each night, when Paddy's tummy was full to bursting, and he and his possum friends curled their long tails around a tree branch and hung about together telling stories. He especially liked the funny ones about his cousins who lived in the cities and towns with the human folk. Paddy laughed and laughed at the idea of a possum home in a rooftop or eating that strange human food each night. Yuck! And then, after a good laugh, one of his friends would usually share a story about big old mean Bunya Tree, who threw huge green cones down at anyone who dared pass underneath. Everyone knew the Bunya Tree was dangerous, and although Paddy had never seen one, nor had ever met another possum who had seen one, he was scared stiff of them, and he kept right away from the part of the rainforest where it was said a family of bunyas still grew. At the end of a bunya story, the possums liked to waggle a furry finger at each other and say, "Remember Bunya, always remember Bunya," as they headed off to bed. But one night, while Paddy was out madly foraging for food, worried as always about not finding enough, something strange happened. Because that night, for the first time in his life, Paddy couldn't find one tiny scrap of food to eat. And the funny thing was, although he'd spent so much time worrying about it, now that it had really happened, Paddy had no idea what to do. Except the only thing he did know how to do, the only thing he'd ever done, and that was, of course, to worry. So that night, he worried himself all the way back to his tree hollow home, where he finally fell asleep, despite the loud grumbles of his hungry tummy. The next evening, it was the same grumbly tummy that woke him with a start, and he set off, more anxious than ever, to find some food. And although he did manage to capture a moth here and a fungi there, it was more or less the same as the night before, and by now, Paddy was so hungry he was starting to panic. Desperately, he ran faster and faster, from tree to tree and plant to plant, searching everywhere for something to eat. But each time he found nothing. And worse still, the worries were now so loud in his ears that he completely lost track of where he was going, and before long he found himself in a part of the rainforest he'd never been before. Suddenly, the forest became very dark, like someone had switched off the moon, and as he slowly looked up to the sky, he gasped at what he saw. There, towering in front of him, was a giant of a tree, bigger than any he'd ever seen before, with long, spiky arms that stretched out in every which way. Paddy was so stunned by the sight of the tree that he couldn't move. It had a huge, ancient trunk with dark, rough skin that looked hard and uninviting, not at all like the soft, gentle skin of the eucalypts he was used to. But it wasn't how it looked that was most startling. It was how it sounded. Or more so, how it didn't sound, because this massive tree was completely silent. It stood majestic, tall, and still, unaffected by the forest around it, and it was the loudest kind of quiet that Paddy had ever heard. Sometimes you have to try really hard to hear the quiet, but in the forest that night, the silence was the loudest thing of all. And as Paddy looked up at the gigantic tree, a strange feeling came over him, a new feeling, something he'd never really felt before. And after a long time of standing with the tree, Paddy realised what it was. For the first time ever, Paddy felt calm. He forgot about his grumbling tummy. He forgot that he was lost. and he even forgot to be scared or worried about this gigantic tree. In fact, Paddy forgot everything except the mighty stillness that surrounded the tree, and for that moment surrounded him too. Paddy was so still and relaxed that he slipped into a happy, peaceful sleep, and the next thing he knew, he was woken by a great thud as something large fell from the sky just beyond where he lay. Paddy jumped with a start at the big sound, which also woke up his worries. Confused and scared, he looked up to the peaceful tree that now looked even more majestic in the early morning light, and then looked down to the giant green cone that had just fallen to the ground not far away. A giant green cone fallen to the ground? Paddy gasped as he realised this tree, this great old tree that had protected him all night long, was none other than mean old Bunya. But just before those dreaded worries could chase him away, Paddy's hungry tummy also woke up, thanks to a delicious smell wafting up from the ground. It was then, in the pale morning light, that he noticed just how many giant green cones lay underneath the bunya tree. He carefully looked up to the still branches above him and counted only 1 or 2 big green cones left hanging from the branches, way over on the other side of the tree, as it seemed like most of the cones had already fallen to the ground. There were hundreds of them lying on the forest floor. A few were fresh, like the one that had just fallen, yet most had been there so long their cones were now completely open and had already begun turning back into the earth. Paddy carefully edged closer to one of the opened cones and curiously sniffed at the inside. His tummy gave another excited rumble at that same delicious nutty flavour now completely filling his nose. And when he timidly picked up one of those nuts that had escaped its hard casing and started to nibble, yum! Without a moment to lose, Paddy frantically gobbled up the nut in a second flat and then hastily reached for another, when he suddenly remembered big old Bunya looking down at him. And when he paused to look up at that wise old tree standing in a great silence, he finally heard the whispers of the trees around him. Slow down, Paddy, slow down. Slow down, Paddy, slow down. Paddy wiped the crumbs from his whiskers slowly and carefully, taking his time to chew every mouthful of his second nut, enjoying the sweet flavours and thick texture in his mouth. And when his tummy said enough, Paddy thoughtfully collected 4 or 5 extra nuts, just enough for each of his possum friends, before heading off on his way. As Paddy the possum scampered back out of the clearing, balancing the bunya nuts in his long curly tail, he turned to take one last look at the great bunya tree, and in a little whisper he said, "Thank you, Bunya, thank you," before scuttling back towards home. From that day on, Paddy and his possum friends had a new story to tell about a wise old tree almost forgotten by the forest, who once saved a hungry possum in every way. And in years to come, as the tiny dark shoots of new bunya trees started to sprout up underneath Paddy's tree hollow home, he would tell that story over and over again, always finishing with a big smile on his face as he waggled a furry finger and said, "Remember Bunya, always remember Bunya."
Hi, I'm Cassandra. You're listening to Mary Farfisa's Outer Space Radio Theater.
Seek, seek, and you shall find a rainbow hiding in this heart of mine. Seek, 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 and you shall find. When the mid-sunshine seems to fade in time, take a look inside where the real glow hides. Seek, seek, seek. across the mountains and the valleys, through the fields of misty morn, on the whispers of a wandering breeze, by the creek that twists and turns, beneath the flowers of the springtime that make the growing seem oh so fine. And then a sweet surprise we gently gather and enjoy. Seek, seek, and you shall find a rainbow hiding in this heart of mine. Seek, 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 and you shall find. When the mid-sunshine seems to fade in time, take a look inside where the real glow hides. Seek, 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 and you shall find. One day as I went out walking, the sky a perfect shade of blue, but stormy clouds they started forming, and I wondered what to do. Should I turn back on the journey, bring my travels to a dreary end? But then I thought again and kicked my heels up in the rain. Seek, seek, and you shall find a rainbow hiding in this heart of mine. Seek, 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 and you shall find. When the mid-sunshine seems to fade in time, take a look inside where the real glow hides. Seek, 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 and you shall find. Yodelay-hoo, yodelay, yodelay-hoo, yodelay, 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 yodelay-hoo, yodelay-hoo, yodelay, yodelay-hoo.